everybody. Welcome back to the Everyday Night. I'm Joe,
And I'm Jeff.
and Jeff. Uh, we were going to talk about something else, but we're talking about something that happened today, just hours
Mm,
ago,
yes, indeed.
and I'll be posting this in the next couple of days. Um, and it's political violence, political assassination.
Yeah,
This is in the wake of the killing of Charlie Kirk, the noted um, political commentator, uh,
conservative.
conservative, very conservative commentator, speaking at a rally at a campus in Utah. Um, so before we get into it, because we want to also talk, as always, about the virtues and the how this relates and how it contradicts the virtues. Before we do that, though, I think we both need fortification for this discussion. So,
Yes, I
what do
think
you,
that's always a good idea.
yeah, what are you drinking tonight?
I have got a glass of the proper 12
Oh,
Irish whiskey
okay.
with a little bit of, with some Iron Fish cherry smoked maple bitters
Well, that's
on
an
ice.
Irish whiskey I haven't tried. I'll be interested in trying.
It's a pretty standard Irish
Yeah.
whiskey. I wouldn't go too far out of my way for it, but it got le it got left here at a party as some portion of our liquor cabinet almost always is.
Okay.
Um, and it's not bad. It's a pretty good whiskey in general,
Mhm.
but it's a I wouldn't call it necessarily a standout Irish whiskey. But
Okay.
and you, sir, what's your libation for the evening?
Well, I have a riff on a Godfather, which is traditionally made with Scotch and amaretto. This
Hmm.
is actually, I substituted batch 22 American Aquavit for the Scotch. I increased the proportion. I found a Godfather like a rusty nail back from
Hmm.
back in the day, way too sweet. So this has I changed the proportions. So more of the it's in fact it's a lot like a an old fashioned, but instead of sugar cubes, I use amaretto. And then
Okay,
a couple of dashes of Angostura bitters to
balance it out a little bit.
balance it out a little bit. So it's pretty good. So,
Okay, good.
yeah. So, I think the first thing we need to say, the the investigation's still ongoing. He was, people can look up the facts. He was speaking at a rally. He was shot and killed from what appears to be from a distance with a rifle that, according to the knowledgeable people I've listened to, was not given modern firearms, was not, and optics and such, probably not a terribly difficult shot given a little bit of training and practice. Um, and um, he has, to be clear, I have disagreed with almost everything he has ever said. Not everything, but almost everything.
Well, whether I have ever agreed with anything he's ever said, and I'm kind of with you. If he never said anything that wasn't just an outright lie, he wouldn't have any support at all.
Right.
But I've found him to be um, at the very least disingenuous every single time I've seen him speak.
Well, I think he was very good at managing conversations. I've been listening to commentary and people say, well, he was respectful and he let people speak. So no, he I've seen people manipulate conversations before. He did it masterfully.
Well,
Very,
he he also didn't fight in his own weight class
yeah,
for the
yeah,
most part.
yes. Um, so uh, he and I remember from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, um, not Brutus, um, but Mark Antony giving a speech, in which he says the evil men do lives after them, the good is oft interred with their bones.
Yes.
And but that he was being ironic. He said so and so let it be with Caesar. But he was saying the opposite of what's true, that people's ill deeds tend to be forgotten and it's don't speak ill of the dead.
Right.
And it's not our intention to really talk about his virtues or vices or political
Right.
stances.
Right.
The uh, thing that I've seen people commentators saying is most commonly decrying political violence, but they're not specifying the kind of political violence because there are different kinds of
Oh,
political
yes.
violence. Um, one analysis, political science analysis, found 11 types of political violence: interstate war, civil war, terrorism, political assassination, military coup, mass protest or rebellion, intercommunal violence, organized crime, cartels, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and state repression. As political violence, this was a study.
So, there were two of those that stood out to me. Organized
Yes.
crime
Organized crime as a kind of political violence, which is
and
interesting.
yeah, and the other
Um,
was what was the one right before? And
intercommunal violence.
yeah, what does
Um,
that mean?
well, I'd have to dig into it. It could be between ethnic groups,
Oh,
between
okay.
communities, right?
Intercommunities. Okay.
Yes,
Between two
um,
communities.
right.
All right.
And he says
Wow.
organized crime and or cartels because they have engaged in violence against the states where they exist or across state borders.
Hmm. Okay. All
Um,
right.
but we're particularly speaking about here political assassination. Because interstate war, meaning war between countries, it's violence. It's a kind of political
Right.
violence. Civil war is, but so is state repression. And so there are kinds of, when people just say all political violence is not is bad, they aren't being specific enough. This
Right.
country was, as all revolutions are, generally, most are founded with some kind of political violence.
Every national sovereign nation at some point used political violence to establish its sovereignty. In that case,
Yeah.
if war is political violence, which it is,
Yeah.
it is violence perpetrated for a political end.
Yes.
Every single war, every single revolution has been some measure of political violence.
Yes. Um, Now there can be nonviolent protests, nonviolent
Sure.
rebellion, but we're specifically speaking about political violence. And political assassination differs from murder in motivation and the target,
Hmm.
because murder is the taking of a life, and assassination is the taking of the life of a prominent individual for political or ideological reasons.
Right.
We don't know here what's happened. It seems likely it was very targeted. It wasn't like the mass shootings that have taken place would seem much more indiscriminate. Um, so, so the question, that has often come up, hypothetical question, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you? Would you kill baby Hitler? Would you kill Hitler's parents? Would you, and create a different timeline? And now we're into branching timelines and
Yeah,
unexpected, unintended consequences and so on. That's a really a different philosophical kind of question.
right.
But
And I don't think it addresses the Hitler was a just like our current uh, office holder in the White House is a symptom, is a I refer to it as the pustule that has risen above the infection.
yes, and somebody actually said that of Charlie Kirk, that he was, because of his positions, he was actually promoting, he was contributing to the cause of promoting violence. He said that some gun deaths every year are justified to maintain the Second Amendment, the freedoms
Right.
of the Second Amendment.
Well,
Um,
that is a one particular chicken that has come home to
yeah,
roost
it's
again.
it's certainly irony anyway.
Hmm.
And
I
but
do like a good
again,
ironing.
what it's not about his positions, although people are going to make it that, and people are going to take this in all sorts of directions for their own purposes.
Sure.
And um, so I think that the first of all, um, thinking about the virtues,
Hmm.
um, um, that honest debate, honest speech, honest exchange of ideas. If the playing field is level in terms of
The big
discussion,
if,
which is
but
a
yeah.
big if, given control of the media and money behind the scenes and all sorts of things that elevate voices over others in the marketplace of ideas, as it used to be called, if
Yeah.
your ideas aren't successful, then resorting to violence to achieve your ends because your arguments aren't good is cowardly.
Yes.
Um, and so not demonstrating courage. Um, so I it's we've discussed before, there's a difference between justice and vengeance, at
Hmm.
least. Um, but justice requires a process to determine guilt and innocence. Simply speaking, no matter if somebody disagrees with, if people disagree, is not a justification for violence, the
Well,
disagreement.
in this case, in this particular case, um, there's a you aren't assassinating someone who has power to get them out of power. This person was assassinated simply because they are influential,
Yes,
and
to
that's
silence their voice.
yeah, and that, as you say, is cowardly.
Yeah.
I think there, I mean, there have been occasions throughout history where power has become so entrenched in a uh, an evil individual that by assassinating, removing that individual from their as the linchpin of power, you can disrupt the power structure enough to topple it.
Yes.
So
It,
this was not that case.
no. But again, assassination over of a prominent, influential individual, although not an office holder, is still assassination.
Yes,
Um, it as we talked about before, the change change of regimes, change of governments more often have a chance of success when they are sustained and nonviolent.
yes.
It's not guaranteed. The chance is still only somewhat over half. Violent change of governments succeeds far less often. It's met with repression and often turns people against the
Well,
agents of change.
often establishes a um, a series of violent changes.
Yes,
Where that become the violent change now becomes the norm, becomes the only way to change regimes.
yes. And that's happened so many places where there's a change and another change and so on. Or the people who get in power then become just as repressive because they don't want to be overthrown and want to lose. And they stomp hard on the opposition and they know
Hmm.
who they are because they were part of it. Um, there's a lack of humility in somebody who would take it upon themselves to do this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
this maybe unconscious, often conscious, I think. John Wilkes Booth comes to mind,
Yeah.
where this is very much a self-aggrandizing thing. I if I can do this, I'll be the hero.
Yes.
Um,
Only I can save the country, which is a
well,
statement from the current occupant. Um,
yeah. Well,
the thing that I'm concerned about is it's always a bad idea to create a martyr.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and in particular, that's what this is going to become for a while. And it was a short-sighted move, I think, from whoever this person is,
Yeah,
um, because it creates a martyr, and this is often the case with any kind of authoritarian regime, is that now there's an excuse to crack down.
exactly. Yeah. Um, yes, and that's a real concern.
Hmm. Because
Um,
they've been cracking down without any real excuse. They've been making
yes,
up excuses. And
yes,
anytime something like this happens, they take it as, see there, look, see, this is
yes.
what we've been telling you about all along.
Um, yes. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was I remember a lot of this during the George George Floyd
Oh yeah. Yeah.
protests, and people who are only, I would say, right leaning were suddenly taking up this. The left is so violent because look at these riots they're having, and in some of the reading I did leading up to this, they talked about one author talked about organized labor as a political as political violence. Labor marches and things were political violence, and certainly some early labor marches and some in the 20th century caused a certain amount of property damage,
Yes.
but it wasn't it wasn't violent until usually. I mean, it
Until
wasn't
the
violent.
armed thugs hired by the bosses came in.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Until there was a ruthless opposition force willing to be violent.
Yes. Well, I had memories of 1968, which was a
Yep.
really bad year with the assassination of Martin Luther King. Again, not influential, but not political. I mean, political, but not elected.
Hmm.
Very influential. Then, and Robert F. Kennedy Sr., the good one, not the brainworm idiot. Um, he was had just won the California primary and would probably have won the nomination and probably would have been elected. That was political assassination, and then the demonstrations that became are referred to as riots
Hmm.
at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, the violence of which was largely provoked, created by the Chicago police under Mayor Richard Daley,
Yeah.
who did not want these dirty hippies on his street and protesting. And similarly to how the bosses brought the thugs out. So I I thought about 68 again when this happened. I, it's but you very different figures. This is more in some ways like George Wallace, the who
Yeah.
was the racist governor of
Alabama.
Alabama, stood in the schoolhouse door. Um, and he wasn't killed, but he was crippled. Um, um, and still ran for president. Did not get elected, but it seems to be more have more in common with that in some ways.
Yeah.
Um, we don't know what we don't know. I'm sure it will come out, although I was the disarray of the FBI and coordination with
Oh,
local
sure.
authorities because at the press conference I watched, the local police are saying one thing, the FBI agent in charge locally said another thing, and the director of the FBI tweeted something else again.
Yeah. Well,
And that is,
we got the best and brightest at the top of our
yeah, and
justice
that's
system right now.
the former FBI agents who I saw commenting about this were aghast. This they said that
Appalled.
they have never seen anything like that, the kind of level of disorganization and lack of coordination. So yeah, appalled. Um, so yeah, the I'm always reluctant to say always in all cases. And
Yeah.
so people putting out blanket statements about this is good, this is bad. I understand it because people don't do nuance. People are have so little ability in the shortened attention span, brief
Well,
sound
there's
bites
I've found
world.
that to be becoming more and more the case since, I want to say the late 80s, but maybe the early 90s, where it, our culture is becoming much more it's, this isn't news to anybody. It's an us versus them. It's either you with us or against us. Either you're an ally or an enemy. There's no
Well,
middle ground. You've got
yeah,
to take a stand.
and that I think that works with the soundbite thing
Yeah.
too. And I have been finding that us versus them thing incredibly difficult and painful to experience.
Well,
My,
I don't think people I don't think people think about these kinds of things anymore. I think they've just got a bunch of memes bouncing around in their heads, and that's all.
yes, and that is the shortened attention span. And people don't read past the headlines.
Right.
Um, People post things that are would seem to you or me obviously not true. And when I have we have a lot of friends who, if I offered a correction, they would say thank you. But there are other people uh, who say, yeah, well, I don't care. It sounds good and I like it and it should be true, but it's not.
Right.
And every time you post something that is so simplistic and untrue, you are degrading the level of discourse in our society.
Right. Although there's another, in speaking about that, there another tactic is bogging down any conversation that approaches the truth with over defining. And
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can, if the I hear all the time conversation isn't going your way. Well, we have to define our terms. We can't talk about this unless you can give me an absolute critical definition of this one thing.
Well, I think that defining terms at the beginning, when you're establishing something, is often important to a conversation. So that because people tend to use different words for the same thing and the same words to mean different things. And just getting some base level of understanding can be important. But I know we've both seen this where somebody you'll will present their argument, give an example, and then instead of dealing with the issue or the idea, the other person will attack the example and say,
Yeah.
now I just posted something about the I I I found some hypocrisy in politicians.
What? What? So
Shocking, I know.
yeah. The
Shocking, I
hell do you
know.
say?
So I saw statements from several politicians about the Israeli strike on Hamas leadership in Qatar. And they were, this is terrible. This is just horrible. It's like, well, let's see what you said about the U.S. strike taking out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Both Qatar and Pakistan, ostensibly allies of a degree to the U.S., and the U.S. didn't confer with Pakistan before doing this. Israel certainly didn't confer with Qatar. And the people who are against this are absolutely in favor and praising what the U.S. did, getting Osama bin Laden.
Right.
Okay, so I pointed this out, and somebody said, well, there's a real difference there because, and then they went in all sorts of different directions. I said, well, and I don't usually do this. I said, I'll take everything you said point by point and said, first of all, you're comparing this and saying it was surgical versus, anyway, I went point by point. I haven't heard back yet, although I heard from other people. Said, I'm pointing out whether or not you agree with the first case, and there were people who didn't, or you don't agree, or you did, or you don't now. I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of politicians who
Right.
were in favor of one thing and not in favor of something else. And if you're saying it's different, well, that's political assassination, but it's in times of war or in absence of the definition of war has really
Well,
slid,
that yeah, thank
and
you,
that's,
George W. Bush for
yeah,
that. Yes.
yes. So. asymmetrical warfare. Anyway, that's another issue. What is war?
Well,
What
and I
is it
think
good for?
a little. Ugh.
Ugh.
So, there's a side observation I make that 90% of the United States population didn't even know Qatar was a country until they gave us a fucking airplane.
Yes. Yeah. And I I also said that for a country like the United States that has been at war for so much of its history, of its next year, it'll be 250-year history, which
Mm,
is about the age when empires fall, by the way.
well,
Um,
depending on the
um,
empire.
but for a country that has been at war of some sort or some kind of military conflict for so much of its history, Americans know fuck all about war, about what war is, about what happens in war, about
World geography,
yeah,
just basic
yeah.
world geography.
Well, and that ties back to the defunding of education, the problems that we've talked about many times before. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
so, um,
I mean, I can't say when I was in school, when public school was actually somewhat funded, um, I can't say that I got a lot of world geography. I mean, learning American geography was was difficult enough as because we're a big country.
yeah,
Um, so a lot of that schooling was done for that. But I mean, I knew I knew that Europe was a continent, and I knew that the difference between Africa and South America. I and I've seen so many videos of, and I know that they're only picking the stupidest people on the
yeah,
street, but
yeah,
you know, a map, point out South America. And usually they center on Mexico and say, well, it's somewhere in here somewhere. And I don't
yeah,
even understand the concepts.
yeah. What really irks me is when they do that with college students.
Oh,
Um,
that's what I'm talking about.
yeah, and having taught college for so many years, I can see I can see that. Uh, um, my third grade teacher, Mrs. Vincent, was brilliant because she had a jigsaw puzzle of the states.
Yeah,
You
I kind
right?
of remember having one of those.
And
Really thick wooden
yes,
tiles. Yeah. Hmm.
it was a special thing to get to use it. You had to stay in from recess to do it. It was what our
Oh,
friend Claire calls the blue marker theory. The blue marker theory is if you're really good today, you get to use the blue marker. And she would make it a thing,
huh.
and kids would go to she just made it a thing, and kids would go to extra effort to use the blue marker. And Mrs. Vincent did that with the map of the states. So you would learn where they are and
This
what to put them together, and they each had the state capital on them. And you
this
know,
sounds like an extension of the Tom Sawyer effect.
yeah, exactly.
My my
I'm having so much fun whitewashing this fence, Becky Thatcher. I had to. I eventually learned what whitewash is, and
oh
why
yeah,
it had to be applied every year because it was not it was just a pigment in water.
lime.
Yeah, and so it didn't last. It
Right.
had to be applied every year. So because oil paint was too expensive, and it wasn't until World War II, post World War II, in the aftermath of World War II, that
Yep.
acrylic paints were developed, which are much less expensive. So yeah, um,
Well, my in fact my brilliant wife, when raising her children, convinced them that vacuuming was the most rewarding activity that there was,
yeah,
and they would fight to get to see who got to vacuum the house,
yeah,
the living room.
that's great. So getting back to
Yeah, right.
what we were talking about, because surprisingly we digressed a bit. Um, I think not only is political assassination in this sense, well, murder too,
Hmm.
is a type of murder, but this is not only unethical, immoral,
Hmm.
dishonest, cowardly, um, unjust. It's also counterproductive to
Agreed.
whatever. So it is it's impractical. It it's
Ill-considered, ill-considered.
yes, it's far better. It's easy. It takes far more fortitude, knowledge, prowess at organizing and speaking and writing and communicating to develop a counter narrative and organization that can effectively combat speech you disagree with. And but that's ultimately more effective when Rupert Murdoch wanted to profit. Of course, Ronald Reagan allowed him to fast tracked his, because he was Australian, fast tracked his American naturalization as a citizen so he
Hmm.
could buy media channels, media
Right.
stations. And he he may have believed the the right-wing positions. It seems like he did, but he also thought it would be most profitable to do it that way. If he thought that there would have been more profit doing something else, he probably would have done that too. Um,
Well, I think he certainly saw a more um, easily influenced audience.
mhm. Um, so I'm not going to um, I'm not going to say that uh, I won't pretend that I agreed with everything because I didn't. Disagreed with most everything, not everything, but most everything that Charlie Cook said. I didn't like the way he communicated, but he was certainly media savvy, and he actually
Sure.
created his organization, so he has a certain amount of skill in doing that. He's part of that manosphere, the brosphere kind of
Yeah.
thing that is, I think, empowering to young men who lack the
Well,
fortitude to educate themselves more broadly about
see,
a lot of issues.
I'll take issue with your use empowering. They're not giving them power. They're giving them a perceived community.
The license and license.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
it's not really,
I agree. I stand corrected. Yeah.
and that's part of my problem with him and a lot of that whole media sphere, that sort of incestuous kind of everybody goes on everybody else's show
Yeah.
and smokes cigars and talks about how men deserve women, and you know it's he is on the political spectrum of that and less on the personal side of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but again,
Well,
I
the thing that I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
well what I found his MO, his modus operandi, was to be like you said, he generally goes in front of audiences or groups that he knows are less informed,
Hmm.
and he goes in with a plan, with a strategy to undermine whatever they say.
Right.
It is not honest discourse. It
Right.
is a performative beatdown of his political opponents.
And I'd say the position that I mean, the method, I don't like the method. So I disagree with people who say, well, at least he's engaging with people. Well, he wasn't really.
No.
Um, um, but he's part of that Christian nationalist, dominionist,
Yep.
what the hell is it, Seven Mountains, something or other kind of, that's all part of the different names for the same
Same cult.
white Christian men deserve to be in charge of everything, full stop. I put those people, Christianists, I call them, in the same fundamentalist camp as Islamists and any other. We are the one true way, and we will take over, and we will be in charge of everything, period.
Yeah.
As somebody who is, I think you and I are both individualist enough to find something like that really freaking annoying. You
Well,
know?
I'm any kind of dogma I
Yeah,
find repulsive.
yeah,
I mean, there are certainly some traditions I think have value, and community is certainly a thing that is built by tradition and some circumspection about behaviors and things like that. But when all you can offer as a why for the way things are is because that's how we do things, or
yeah.
or appealing to some invisible, all-powerful manifestation of your version of good
Well, and
as the ultimate authority.
the promise of community is a recruitment tool
Yes.
for cults.
Absolutely.
It's how people are recruited into lots of extreme. They often don't have to be recruited by force. Sometimes are, depending on the
Hmm.
place and the organization. But oftentimes people are recruited into cults, which I put those aforementioned examples into the realm of cults. They are recruited into cults with the promise of community. So they prey on this goes back to the friendship recession we talked about. Young
Yep.
men, often not enough friends. It also has to do with isolation, social media, and so on. The promise of community is it means a lot to people.
Well,
And
and
when I graduated undergrad, I traveled cross country with my friend Mark, who was going to be starting law school in Portland. We drove from Chicago, from Evanston to cross the country, camping in his Fiat, his and camping out on the way, and then he got settled in Portland. We drove down the coast to San Francisco and stayed with friends for a while. And he wanted to see the campus of UC Berkeley, so we went there, and there were booths, all kinds of different causes and stuff. It was fascinating. He was a very clean cut looking guy, just having applied to law school. I was not.
you were an
Um,
artist.
and we were looking at things, and he was approached by these people who said, "Hey, we're doing this. We're having a free dinner. Why don't you come?" And I came over and he said, and they looked at me and he said, "Yeah, we're together here." And so we both went to this thing. And after the dinner and really bad singing, there was discussions in small groups, and someone would say something and I would question it, and they'd respond, and then he'd question them, and they respond, and I'd question. So we were tag teaming our responses and kind of overwhelming them. And then they said, well, this has been, we would love to continue this. Why don't all of you come up to our farm? And said, oh, well, give us directions. We could drive. Oh, you no need. You can just get on our bus. We'll drive everybody up. Said, no, thanks. Those were Moonies.
Oh, really?
The
Wow.
Moonies tried to recruit, well, him and me by extent. They tried to recruit us, get us to go up to their farm where they isolate. I've read all about the, for the people who don't know about the Moonies, the cult of the
Sun Young
Reverend
Moon.
Sun Young Moon. Yeah, really bad. But we didn't fall for it, and I didn't even hear the term. They never said who they were. They never said anything about that. I didn't realize until years later that that's who they were and what they did.
Wow.
Um, but
That's
it was
interesting.
they specifically looked for lone individuals who were wandering, looking around, who might be in need of that community, which they
Hmm.
promised.
Right.
And it's like the food was bland, vegetarian, bland. I was already a vegetarian. It was bland, and the singing was terrible, and the discourse was uninformed.
Does not sound like your kind of place, Joe.
No, 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 not at all.
You're not my kind of cult.
No,
I'm gonna
no,
look for a better cult.
exactly.
Better
Ex
food and better music.
exactly. Exactly. Um,
Well, in this, I think there's also um, that same kind of individual is also the one that falls prey to a conspiracy theory
yeah,
or conspiracy theories, and I
yeah,
think it's in addition to the this sort of sense of community, which has got to be pretty tenuous. There's a sense of superiority in that you've
mm,
been let in on something
yeah,
that you're smarter than the people around you because you have been shown this secret and now you know and you can never unknow it.
yeah,
And it gives you it gives you a feeling, gives these people a feeling of superiority where they otherwise can't claim any.
yeah.
So,
Well,
you know,
there's speaking of terms, there's always a jargon to which jargon is used by groups, professions, organizations, cults, even
yeah,
to
sure.
recognize members of the group, excuse me, and exclude others. The shibboleth, which was the unpronounceable word to the outsiders. So the outsiders were asked to pronounce this word, but they didn't have that sound in their vocabulary. They couldn't do it, and then they knew that they were trying
Hmm.
to break into the group. So there's the secret handshake. There's the
Right.
the
Secret decoder ring.
right. I never got
Well,
one of those. I always wanted one of those.
well, it's just tells you to drink your Ovaltine.
No, it was it was just a simple substitution cipher, so it wasn't really very hard. You didn't need a ring
No,
for that. So
not really. Yeah, so and I think that our our subject here, Mr. Kirk, um, was and I well, I think Christian nationalism is another conspiracy theory kind of a thing where you're given this power. You are being told the people who fall for it are being told that you deserve these things that have been denied you,
yes,
right?
and that
It's this
that's
white supremacy, all of that is the you deserve this. You history, if you look at this narrow band of history that we're going to show you, you
yeah.
can see how you deserve all of these things and these people have been denying it to you for generations and it's
Well, I'd
you
say
have to
that
take it back.
the cult aspect of it is you are part of this group that deserves things. The conspiracy is because these other people are denying it to you.
Yes.
They are taking your place. They are doing this. Um, the Great Replacement
Yeah, right.
conspiracy theory that the effort is to bring the effort by the Jews, of course, it's always blame the Jews. The effort is to bring in to the US so many non-white people that white Christians become the minority in the country, are replaced. Yeah. So yeah, it's a cult with a conspiracy, and I think
Yeah,
those
well,
often
a
go
lot of
together.
cults form around a conspiracy.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Um,
so, but that's another kind of arrogance and cowardice
yes,
belonging to a cult like that.
yes. It does not justify his, just to be clear, I don't want anybody to mistake, whatever disagreements with his positions or agreements with positions he held, because anyway, it does not justify his murder.
No, yes,
Um,
of course not.
that kill, yeah, and the injunction in the to be clear, and I mentioned this before, in the commandment is thou shalt not murder, not thou shalt not kill.
Mhm.
And murder is defined as not in warfare and not, there's a bunch of terms that define murder. It's not self-defense. It's not, um, so I think there are people who dispute that too, but I'm not, neither of us is a pacifist, but neither of us is about to go out and kill somebody we disagree with. It's so easy to block somebody.
Yeah. Well, and I resist the urge to block people a lot of times because I feel like I'm giving up. I feel
Yeah,
like I'm surrendering.
I feel exactly the same way, and I have resisted the urge to block people, I will try to engage somebody who disagrees with me in conversation. When they are disrespectful, when they are intractable, when they will not listen to evidence, when there is no point to that, and they won't shut the fuck up. And I had somebody who was, I would say something innocuous, and they would always, because we disagreed about something, they would always comment and turn it into what they wanted to talk about. It's like, that's not what I was talking about. Yeah, but
Right.
you said this other. It's time is too short, you know.
Yeah, but that's what I've experienced in the past when I've had someone like that. Instead of blocking them, I'll disengage because usually by that time, half a dozen other people have
Yeah,
waded into the conversation telling this person that they're being an idiot. And I can
yes,
just walk away
yeah, yeah,
figuratively and the person who was originally my detractor or whatever will get tired enough with half a dozen people will take up the argument for me and I can just leave it alone.
yeah. And I think the thing in those cases, because we've done similar things, is it doesn't change their mind either.
No, right.
There's always uh, uh, two things that have to be both weighed. One is holding true to your convictions, your evidence, your conclusions, but also doing a reality check. Is my evidence sound? Are my conclusions sound? Is there a flaw in my logic? Have I missed something? Have I made something
Hmm.
incorrect?
Sure.
But again, I'm talking about conclusions, evidence-based conclusions, reaching a conclusion based on data and facts, rather than simply holding some uninformed opinion. So it's I will, and it took me a long time to learn this, but I did. I will present my ideas strongly with
Sure.
evidence. I expect other people to push back as strongly, but with evidence and
Hmm.
with logic. this is what you and I both learned in critique, right?
Yep.
And it's scientific process too. It's critical thinking. Um, there's so fucking little of that. When
Yeah.
people say nah, nah,
Mhm.
nah,
Yeah.
but
Or
what about this? It's like, okay, selective, your selective examples, your selective focus on only these things, ignoring these other things. And I mentioned these other things is not whataboutism. It is saying you're cherry picking your examples. You are using too small a data set. You need to expand your
right.
view. It's not the same as whataboutism, but then again, that's a nuance that um, people don't necessarily get. So,
So
oh
we digressed again a little bit. I want to
yeah.
get back to again, like you said, you don't want to speak. I don't like to speak in generalities, and I don't like to speak in absolutes. So the
Is that all the time
yeah,
without
without fail,
exception?
I am absolutely against absolutism.
Yeah. Okay.
But the the cry of say political violence is never ever justified is, I think, disingenuous. I think that is then when that is what a revolution is when enough people believe that there is no more civil recourse,
Hmm.
that that they are oppressed, or that some injustice is being perpetrated against an entire group of people large enough to take on a government,
Yeah.
that they feel that this is the only thing left to us. We have tried the courts, we have tried the ballot, we have tried this, and this power that is oppressing us is too entrenched for us to dig out with what remains of the legal structure.
Yeah.
So this is where we are.
Yeah.
Nobody wants it, nobody likes to see it, but sometimes I think it's necessary, or we wouldn't have an independent country.
Yeah. It's funny, not long ago, we were in Concord, Mass. We were at the bridge where the shot heard round the world, the
Hmm.
first shot of the Revolutionary War, was fired. And it was, I mean, you and I have both been in medieval reenactments of bridge battles. There's an actual bridge, and man, I could see it. I could, I could, I could absolutely see it. And it was chilling. It was
Hmm.
also inspiring. And as my brilliant and lovely wife said, they would be appalled at the state of the country now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I sometimes it's, I think that it's, I'm concerned that creating a martyr will be an excuse, as it often has been, for the government to become more repressive and harsh.
Mm. Yeah. I'm afraid of
Um,
that too. And I'm also afraid of the opposition saying the opposition to the government who's or the faction that is going to carry this as a banner of see how violent these people are.
yes, yeah,
I'm afraid that there's going to be a a drawing back of the opposition that says, "Oh yeah, well we don't want to be violent. We can't say, you know, violence is never justified, and so therefore we're going to back off because yeah, you're right. Somebody died, and that's terrible. yeah, somebody died. But he also said himself,
Yeah.
people are going to die, and that's just the cost of freedom.
Yeah.
I think if and I can say the right and the left because Charlie Kirk absolutely called himself a conservative right wing.
Yeah.
He called himself a Christian nationalist.
Yeah.
He he was proud of it.
Yeah.
If they want to hold him up as a martyr and say the left is so violent they need to back off, and the left says, yeah, you're right, we should just back off. I think that's what I'm more afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know the right is going to absolutely say, see how violent you are.
Yeah.
And I think the left ought to say, we're not, but we can be.
Yeah. Well, the right and left and that political spectrum,
Hmm.
that's another big question. I was discussing this with somebody online who said, "Well, I'm left," and you said the thing. It's like, no, you're on. We need to now. We do need to define our terms. What is right? What is left? What is far left? What is centrist? What is and yeah, there are because well, you're familiar with the horseshoe theory, right?
Yeah, right.
That the you go far enough right and you go far enough left, you meet. Um, and I think that any kind of absolute authoritarian control, totalitarianism, I find anathema. I really do.
Hmm.
It is, and the people who shout freedom, we demand freedom to, and if you don't agree with our version of freedom, we will make you agree with our version of freedom.
Yeah.
You know, Um, so, yeah, again, I don't want to sugarcoat his or ignore his positions, his legacy, but I don't want to say that that's justification for what
No.
somebody did. We don't know the motive. It seems likely, but we do have no proof. We don't know the motive. While who knows? Maybe they again, conflicting reports from the FBI haven't been checking while we've been talking. They may have, it's a rapidly moving story. They may have found somebody. I don't know.
I'd
And
heard that they had somebody in custody, whether
they
or not
did,
that.
and then they didn't, and then maybe they did again, and then yeah. So we'll see. But I don't want to ascribe a motive to somebody until we know.
Well, you call this a fast-moving story, but I think it is a symptom of reckless media that has become endemic in this.
Yes, in the 24-hour news cycle,
Hmm.
where they latch onto something for 24 hours a day for days at a time, and then they move on to the next thing that's replaced it. This will have replaced the Jeffrey Epstein story for a time.
Yeah, for a minute, I think
Yeah,
the
I think that's an ongoing thing that people are not going to want to drop. Um, so, but we'll see. I can imagine, because I don't know, but I imagine some politicians saying, well, at least we won't have to talk about Epstein anymore for a while.
yeah, till maybe we'll have the weekend off of it from Epstein, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, okay.
So I think we've rambled the field
Yeah,
enough
I think
on
so,
this.
as is our wont. So, thanks everybody. Please like, share, follow, suggest topics. We try to be timely, but also talk about subjects that are not only of the moment, but this seemed relevant. So, if
Well, you're
you,
not. Everybody's heard it.
yeah,
We
yeah,
can't get away from it in the news cycle, so
yeah.
we
So,
might as well. We
Yeah.
don't want to, we also don't want to appear that we're ignoring things that
Right.
seem relevant.
Exactly. So,
So we use this as a jumping off point to talk about other things, as we often do.
yeah.
So if you've got a better idea, let us know what it is.
Yeah. And so, until we see you next time, be thou
A good night.
and true.